how many people would like to learn something new today? Very good, okay. And how many of you would like me to teach you something new today? Okay? And what if I were to tell you that it is absolutely impossible? It's been proven psychologically, biochemically, neurologically, it is absolutely impossible for me to teach you anything. Gets me off the hook. Yes, as she said up here, everything you've ever learned, you taught yourself. No one has ever taught you anything. People have shown you things. People have given you information, but it was your application of that information whereby then you taught yourself. So, you know, who taught you how to walk? Who taught you how to eat? Who taught you how to do 2 plus 2? Someone may have showed it to you, but it was your doing it that then you had the quote-unquote aha experience, right? And learned something. Tying your shoes. It wasn't until you tied them. Well, still you get the point. Riding a bike, on and on and on. It was you who taught yourself. So I encourage you now, from this moment forward in your life, if you haven't been realizing that every moment of your life, to begin your day, each day, with the concept that I'm going to learn something new today. I want to learn something new today. Because one of my primary goals in my life that I set for myself is to antiquate everything I've ever learned every day. To make it old. And part of my PhD and part of what I learned and what I established was, I didn't discover per se, but I was the first one to define the here and now. I was the first one to define it in the laws of physics. In the sense of, a word came to me. I mean, that's really all it was. I was just sitting there one day contemplating. All of a sudden this word came to me and everyone said, ooh, wow, that's cool. It means so much. And I said, oh, cool. I'll write it down. And ooh, I got a PhD. You know, but I discovered what is now being called throughout the world of philosophy and physics and psychology, the law of repeatlessness. There's no two moments, no two experiences, no two anything that are ever the same. Life is constantly changing, growing, expanding. Every nanosecond, every particle, everything that exists in physical form and non-physical form is either taking on energy or shedding energy. That life is, in and of itself, a state of repeatlessness. And the only place where repeating occurs is through the perception of our minds. But it's not true. It can't be. It's not physically possible. So, one of the effects of mind control that we've already exhibited today and already have experienced right now in this room was the idea of who you learn by, how you learn. We have grown up in the model of education that exists today in our culture and across cultures all the way around the world, is this idea that you sit in front of someone and someone bestows information upon you and they are the teacher. Who's in control of your learning in that environment? And then if you don't expose yourself to that system, can you be smart? Can you learn things? No, you need the institution. Mm-hmm. So think about it in those terms. All right. I'd like to start by telling a story, a real short little story. Imagine, if you will, you're out in the field and you notice this ant. And this ant is climbing to the top of this blade of grass and it's falling down. And it's climbing to the top of this blade of grass and it's falling, it keeps on trying to get to the top of this blade of grass. Now why? Why would this ant be trying to get to the top of this blade of grass and just sit there? What purpose does it serve? You know? Is there any purpose whatsoever? The answer is no. There's no purpose whatsoever for that ant to get to the top of that blade of grass. So is it just a fluke? And yes, it is a fluke. It's what's known as a lancet fluke. And a lancet fluke is a parasite that happens to reside in the stomachs of cows and sheep. And it just happens to commandeer the body of an ant, get into its brain, and use it as an all-terrain vehicle to get to the top of that blade of grass so that then it can exhibit its suicidal behaviors. So this parasite has gone into the brain of this ant, commandeered it, and basically hijacked that creature's brain. Is there anything else we've ever seen that is like that in our world?
Television.
Mm-hmm.
Going to work every day.
Going to work every day, on and on and on. You see, ideas, not worms, are that which hijack our brains. And if you think I'm suggesting that there's this relative, minority population that is being affected by this, such as, Islam, whereby an idea that their life is to be of servitude to whatever Allah would like, so much so that it would lead them to suicidal behavior. If you think I'm just talking about small minorities of people, I'm here to tell you that it's much worse than that. In fact, probably almost every human being on the planet is being affected by such viral thinking. So how does it all begin? How do we begin to sort through all this stuff? Because, how many books do you have out here? How many videotapes, how many lectures have we heard about all the different things that are controlling our brains, whether it's the fluoride in our water or the television and the flicker effect, and every, 24th of a second they're putting some type of subliminal message in there, and then backward message. How do you sort through all that? And the truth of the matter is that the only way anyone can have control over your brain is if you don't have control over your brain. So we're going to discuss what are the mechanisms of the brain, how the brain works, how we formulate thought, what are the current conditions of the brain, and then what we can do about it. And that's what today's lecture is. Because once you understand those mechanisms of how the brain works, then you will understand what things are working against it. Fair enough? Okay. All right, when you're born, you come into this world, and I like to call it you're a perfectly clean biocomputer, okay? And you've got just enough software to survive, enough to eat, enough to, release, all that other kind of stuff, and you're just this precious little biocomputer. And as time progresses, you begin to download information. Download programs, download ideas, and we begin to develop a kind of a self-concept. For the first 18 months of our lives, though, we don't even have a separate concept of ourselves. For the first 18 months of our lives, your mother and you are one. And there's this other blob that comes in every now and then that takes you away from that oneness, called your dad or brother or sister or something like that, but the self-concept does not exist. But during that first year and a half, there's been a whole bunch of people who have been defining who you are. Oh, she's this way, or he's that way, and he likes this, and oh, you're this one, and you're that one. And it is all these he, she, or you, or him, or her statements that begin to define who we are. And right about that 2 years of age period, between 18 months and 2 years, our first I statements begin to be formed. I am this and I am that. And it is from those previous statements, though, that we begin to develop those I statements. All right? Now think about how many children are watching TV, How many children are being just sat in front of that little unit there, being bombarded with all the information of who they are and what they need, and look at these happy kids because they have this, and look at these sad kids because they don't have that, and all of our concept per se. Okay, but let's just stay with ourselves, that each one of us developed our I concept. So if I were to ask you, who are you? Who are you? You know, and what I get is a lot of times is, well, I'm a man, or I'm a woman, or, you know, I'm a construction worker, or I'm a this, or I'm a that, and we have all these statements of who we are. Okay? Yet, all of those statements are based in the mind. All of those statements are based in time. Because they take time to occur. And I'm here to submit that who you are is not in time. Now I'm pushing against some of the mind control right now. And I'm willing to stand here and push against it. Because if there's anyone who's feeling a little bit uncomfortable, know that that uncomfortable feeling has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the biochemistry and what has been programmed into you not to think about. But until you know who you are, and really what you are out of control.